It's time for the moment you've been waiting for. Da di da di da di di da di da di di da 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 di dotally dotally da di da di da di da di da di dotally dotally da di dotally dotally da di dotally 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 da. The end of Genesis! Welcome back to Atheist Reads the Bible. I don't think I've ever actually opened up a chapter that way. We are finally at the end of the book! Yeah! This is a fantastic milestone to mark what has been a long time coming. I feel like I started planning and putting together this channel so long ago. I bought a whole Bible for it. I had it shipped to the country I'm living in because this version doesn't exist anywhere. There's no title for the beginning of chapter 50. It starts in the middle of the death of Jacob, which was the chapter for the previous one. I think I said it in a few videos ago, but evidently these titles were all added later by human people. And of course, the whole Bible is written by human people, but the authors of each evidently didn't add the titles and chapter numbers themselves. It was done by mysterious men. Maybe that's from, what is that? What's the Council of Nicaea? Maybe it came from the Council of Nicaea. That was a group of people, if no one knows what that is, that decided on what would be canon and what wouldn't be. I don't remember when it happened, like maybe in the 400s? I don't know, that's just a number. But eventually this thing was constructed into what we see today, and what you see me holding in my hands. Apparently this is made out of goat skin leather. I think I said that in the very beginning of this channel. And, you know, I'm not a big fan of using animal products. A lot of it doesn't seem like to be a very healthy industry. In fact, a lot of it's extremely abusive. But you gotta make sacrifices if you want to follow a religion. So what's happened now is Jacob has just died and his 12 sons are left, including Naphtali, who the way he spoke about in the last chapter made him seem like he was a woman. I was confused, made it sound like he was supposed to give birth. But Jacob likes to use metaphors, or he did before he died. We are finally rid of one of the most horrendous characters in this entire book. And at this point, the thing is, we haven't even gotten to the Jacob chapters on the channel, like things that have been released. Jacob is not even a part of the story yet. So I've made all of these jokes for chapters in chapters, video after video. And if someone loves Jacob, I've probably lost them at this point because I have not been kind to him. There are plenty of cool people. There's been like a handful that are cool in the Bible so far. You know, a lot of people, they have their ups and downs, but Jacob is the worst. Why are you the way you choose to be? Let's see how Genesis closes itself out. Or more accurately, the person who authored this section of history decides to close Genesis out. Joseph threw himself on his father and wept over him and kissed him. So it starts off sad. Kind of starts off like the beginning of Midsummer. Then Joseph directed the physicians in his service, they had physicians, to embalm his father. Oh yeah, Egypt had some of the first physicians. I just read about that in my The History of Medicine, the book by DK. If you want to read good history books, check out DK books, specifically the How Things Work series and like the history of blank. Or no, it's called the blank books. It's called the medicine book or the history book or the mythology book. That's like one series, and the other is how blank works, how food works, how the body works, how the brain works, how space works. There's so many cool topics. One of the most interesting nonfiction series of books I've ever seen. Joseph directed the physicians in his service to embalm his father Israel. Maybe he's in no, he gets buried in a cave. I was going to say maybe he's in a pyramid, but I guess Egypt probably wouldn't have allowed that for this Hebrew man. So the physicians embalmed him, taking a full 40 days. How long does it take to embalm a person? Goodness. If it takes that long, they're like decomposing while you do it? Ugh. For that was the time required for embalming. Good, they did clarify. I was wondering, and the Bible says that's just how long it took. That's how long it takes. Apparently my brain just stops working sometimes while I'm reading. And the Egyptians mourned him for 70 days. That's interesting. Because according to Joseph, I thought the Egyptians hated Hebrews. So Jacob was evidently so impactful that they mourned him for a long, long time. 2 months and 10 days, roughly. I wonder if they were counting with the same calendar we currently use. When the days of mourning had passed, Joseph said to Pharaoh's court, If I have found favor in your eyes, I am so going to steal this. That phrase has been used so many times throughout the Bible. If I have found favor in your eyes, then blank. I'm doing this to my bosses. I'm doing this to my friends. I'm going to do this to family. If I have found favor in your eyes, leave a like on the video and a comment to boost the metrics. Speak to Pharaoh for me. So Joseph saying this to the court. If I found favor in your eyes, speak to Pharaoh for me. Tell him, my father made me swear an oath and said, I am about to die. Bury me in the tomb I dug for myself. I thought he was just going to go in a cave. Did he dig a tomb for himself? In the land of Canaan. Now, let me go up and bury my father. Then I will return. By the way, I finally looked up Canaan on a map. It's just like modern day Israel, which is really interesting because I didn't fully draw that connection until reading this book. Israel, like named after Jacob. I was, for so long, I was like, man, what a coincidence. That's cool that he has the same name as the country. So the whole country of Israel was named after him, and now everything makes sense as to why it's the heart of Judaism and Christianity and Islam. Maybe not the heart of Islam, but it's certainly an affiliated religion. Pharaoh said, go up and bury your father, as he made you swear to do. Good guy Pharaoh. Always has Joseph's back, probably because he knows he'll be slain by God if he doesn't. So Joseph went up to bury his father. All Pharaoh's officials accompanied him, the dignitaries of his court, and all the dignitaries of Egypt, besides all the members of Joseph's household and his brothers, and those belonging to his father's household. So that's got to be a ton of people. Only their children and their flocks and their herds were left in Goshen. Only the children and the herds and the flocks. No more than that. However many hundreds or thousands of those there are at this point. This family reproduces like rabbits. It was a very large company. Yeah, that's what we figured out. When they reached... My voice cracked. When they reached the threshing floor of Atad, I think that's a new place. Maybe it's like Hakuna Matata. When they reached the threshing... What's a threshing floor? I didn't even question that. When they reached the threshing floor of Atad, near the Jordan, they lamented loudly and bitterly. And there Joseph observed a 7-day period of mourning for his father. That's a long period of mourning. That is why the place near the Jordan is called Abel Mizraim. Is that related to Abel, like Adam and Eve's son? So Jacob's sons did as he commanded them. They carried him to the land of Canaan and buried him in the cave in the field of Machpelah, near Mamre, which Abraham had bought along with the field as a burial place from Ephron the Hittite. That is the whole description and all of the details that we learned in the last chapter 2. I guess they're repeating it for consistency. After burying his father, Joseph returned to Egypt together with his brothers and all the others who had gone with him to bury his father. Little bit of a roundabout sentence, but technically correct. Joseph reassures his brothers. New title. There's 3 titles. Wait, 2 titles. Yeah, the death of Jacob was the end of 49. 50 didn't have a title. So here's our first title of 2 in chapter 50. It's pretty short, this little section. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, what if Joseph holds a grudge against us and pays us back for all the wrongs we did to him? Why would they be thinking that? Joseph, he did play all the mind games with him that we talked about before, like 5 or 6 chapters ago. But he's otherwise been very good to his brothers since. He gave them the best spots in the land. Do they think it's just because their dad was alive? He was doing it for the sake of his dad? Is this story going to end badly? We don't have much left. This is like, there's not even a full page left, just like a couple more paragraphs. So they sent word to Joseph saying, your father left these instructions before he died. This is what you are to say to Joseph. Are they about to lie? In the name of their dead father? This is what you are to say to Joseph. They're saying this is what Jacob told them to tell Joseph. I ask you to forgive your brothers the sins and the wrongs they committed for treating you so badly. That's exactly what they're doing. Now, please forgive the sins of the servants of the God of your father. The sins of the servants of the God of your father. When their message came to him, Joseph wept. I can't forgive my brothers. His brothers then came to him and threw themselves down before him. We are your slaves, they said. They're not even going to, they're not taking any chances. No discussion, just throw yourself on the ground, prostrate yourself before him, and say you're his slave. Jacob did describe a lot of them as being awful. Like, we didn't know that much about a ton of the characters, a ton of his brothers. You're going to be like a snake. You're going to bite a horse's heels. You've been too violent your entire life. I liked you in the beginning, but now you all kind of suck. But Joseph said to them, don't be afraid. Am I in the place of God? You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. This is the reasoning that we touched on a few videos ago that I think is pretty faulty. He's basically saying God did bad. You guys were allowed to do wrong so that good things could happen through God's powers, through God, through me. And at this point, I've gotten enough comments on the channel that I know different people have different beliefs, so I'm not making assumptions about maybe you specifically watching this. But everywhere where I grew up, it was like, God is all powerful. God can do anything in any way. There are no limits. Your mind can't imagine how much God can do. So if that is your viewpoint, if that is what you think, then God could have accomplished all of the good things with Joseph without any of the bad things. Didn't have to use his brothers selling their brother into slavery. But we're almost at the end of the book. Let's not get caught up in that right now. So then, don't be afraid. I will provide for you and your children. And he reassured them and spoke kindly to them. Aw, what a good guy. But his time is going to be cut short because we've reached the next title in the chapter, The Death of Joseph. Wah, wah. Sorry, Joseph, your time is nigh. As the Deku tree says in Ocarina of Time, hope that reference isn't too dated. Joseph stayed in Egypt, along with all of his father's family. He lived 110 years. Again, lifespan's getting shorter and shorter. And saw the third generation of Ephraim's children. And Ephraim is Joseph's son, I believe. Yeah, because Jacob blessed Ephraim and Manasseh. That was his other son's name. So the third generation, does that mean 2 more down, like great-grandchildren? I mean, 110 is time enough. Also, the children of Machir, son of Manasseh, were placed at birth on Joseph's knees. So, yes. Also, the children of Machir, who's the son of Manasseh, who's the son of Joseph. So it's his children. That means great-grandchildren. Placed on his knees. Then Joseph said to his brothers, I'm about to die, but God will surely come to your aid and take you up out of this land to the land he promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And Joseph made the Israelites swear. Oh, they are officially the Israelites. I think that's the first time they've used that word right here at the end of Genesis. And Joseph made the Israelites swear an oath and said, God will surely come to your aid. And then you must carry my bones up from this place. Do they have to wait until he becomes bones? Not just his body? So Joseph died at the age of 110. And after they embalmed him, he was placed in a coffin in Egypt. Man, Egypt has so much cool stuff. So Joseph's coffin could just be out there somewhere. What do they make the coffin out of? Stone? Wood? Woodstone? If he's in stone, then theoretically that coffin could be out there somewhere. Maybe he is in one of the pyramids. Maybe he's just in the sand. Maybe it was wood and it's all deteriorated at this point. Either way, that's the end of Genesis. Thank you to everyone. With this being a bit of a bookmark, no pun intended. Just gonna put this guy back in there. It is so cool to have made it all the way through the first book of the Bible. I think that is my first time ever reading it. I don't know that I've ever actually made it that far. I think I got to like people being named in Genesis, and I was like, this is boring. I mean, like chapter 16, maybe in the 20s. But that I think might be the first time in my life, not just childhood or adult, just the whole life, that I've gone through all the book of Genesis. So there will be no breaks. We're going straight through because there's a lot of Bible. I'm locked into this responsibility for the next 5 years. Next video, we will pick up with Exodus. See you guys soon.